My boyfriend, Nathan Linden, refuses to participate in buy one, get one free promotions with me, so every time we go out on a date, my best friend, Candace Lane, always ends up joining us. Buy one free one at Lucky Star Beverages. Don't miss out. Nathan immediately calls Candace, then places his order first without missing a beat. Candace doesn't take long to arrive and accepts the iced coffee Nathan passes her. The straw is already stuck into the drink. The pair begin to talk about a mutual game they play, getting into a heated discussion that causes their faces to flush red. I tighten my grip on the receipt I'm holding. The milkshakes are clearly on promotion too, yet every time, I'm the odd one out and have to order for myself. By the time I receive my milkshake, Nathan and Candace have already exited the shop. I hurry over to the cinema across the street to meet up with them, only to see the two of them arguing. As it turns out, Nathan's credit card allows him to enjoy 50% off if he buys 2 tickets, but he has no intention of giving that second ticket to me. When Candace spots me, she urges me, "Lily, quick, go buy a ticket for yourself. The movie's going to start in 10 minutes. Then, she shoves a bucket of popcorn into my arms and adds with a shy smile, "Here, the popcorn was buy one, get one free too. You can have this bucket all to yourself since you eat so much. Nate, and I can just share this one bucket." I pause and glance between the two. Their movie seats are next to each other and their favorite drinks, phone casings, and even the keychains hanging from their backpacks are all the same. Suddenly, an epiphany crashes over me. Since they love buy one, get one free promotions that much, I'll just back out of this relationship. I turned right around to leave the cinema. My boyfriend, Nathan Linden, chased after me and grabbed my arm. "You're this angry over a movie ticket?" Taking out his phone, he jabbed at it for a moment before shoving the screen in my face. When he spoke again, his tone was rather dark. "There, I've bought a ticket for you. Is that enough? Hurry up. The movie's about to start, so let's not keep Candace waiting." I stared at my seat number, noting how it was row 4, seat 5. Theirs were row 8, seats 6 and 7. Even now, Nathan still didn't seem to understand that the problem wasn't the individual ticket. It was the fact that he automatically assumed that the free ticket and the seat next to his belonged to my best friend, Candace Lane. I retorted, "Nathan, don't you think it's rather ridiculous for 3 people to watch a romance movie together?" He was momentarily surprised before he snapped, "You're suddenly saying that you don't want to watch the movie? Then, what about Candace?" "Nate, you're always so mean to Lily. If she doesn't want to watch it, it's fine." Candace squeezed her petite figure between us, once again playing peacekeeper. Grabbing her hand tightly, Nathan turned to shoot me a frosty look. "I'm not being mean. She's the one who's being ridiculous here. Forget it. She can do whatever she wants. We've already bought the tickets anyway, so let's go inside ourselves." Candace chewed on her lip, but her hesitation didn't even last 3 seconds before she was waving at me. "Lily, why don't you head back to the dorm first? We'll head to you once the movie is over." I stood rooted to the spot for 5 minutes, but even after the ticket gates closed, no one appeared again, nor did I receive even a single call. Subsequently, I took a cab back to the university campus. We were in our final year, so most of our roommates had moved out, leaving only Candace and me. Once I had calmed down, I sent a message to my senior at the internship company, Elena Swift. "Elena, I want to give up on helping Nathan Linden and Candace Lane get an opportunity to join the R&D department in Japron." Elena was quite shocked. "Didn't you previously say that you wouldn't join the R&D division either if the 2 of them failed to get in? For the sake of keeping you here, I even specifically requested 2 more slots from the company." I shut my eyes. Images of all the buy one, free one items flashed through my mind, and I steeled my resolve. "Sorry, Elena, but my eyes are open now." Time slipped by, and eventually it was 10 p.m. It had been 7 hours since the movie ended. At last, Nathan and Candace entered the room, smiling and laughing as they chatted with each other. Candace threw her arms around my neck and cooed sweetly, "Lily, we neglected you today. To make it up to you, Nate and I bought you cake. Forgive us, please." Nathan placed a slice of blueberry mousse cake in front of me. It was the last piece. "Candace managed to snag it for you." A scoff burst from my lips as I replied, "I don't like mousse cake." The one who loved to eat mousse cake was actually Candace. He frowned. "Liana Souther, did you have gunpowder for breakfast today? You're like a lit fuse, exploding at every little thing. What should have been a nice date ended up a frustrating mess because of you." I raised my head to stare at him. If he truly had been so frustrated, how had he still been in the mood to watch a movie and enjoy a lavish meal? Despite hating seafood, he had ordered a whole bunch of seafood dishes for Candace, who loved them, and he had even used my account to leave a review after the meal. Candace went over to tug on his arm. There was a helpless expression on her face. "Nate, Lily has always had a short temper. You promised me that you would accommodate her. All right. You've been nagging me the whole way here. Ruffling her hair fondly, he then walked over to her desk. You told me before that your eyes hurt, right? I got you a new desk lamp. It was only then that I noticed he was carrying a shopping bag. In the past, he would buy gifts to cheer me up. This time, he had bought a new desk lamp for Candace. He carefully adjusted the angle and brightness of the lamp. The light magnified the wide smile on Candace's face. I rubbed away the moisture in the corners of my eyes, only for my gaze to land on the glass butterfly hanging from my bookshelf. It had been a gift from Nathan when he first confessed his love to me. From sketching the blueprint and making the mold to forming it in the furnace, it had taken over a month to make. Just as I was lost in a daze while staring at it, a hand suddenly reached over to pluck it away. Nathan hung it on Candace's desk lamp. There was a smug and delighted look on his face. It looks so much nicer with a little decoration. Candace shot me a timid glance. Lily, could you give that to me? I gazed into Candace's eyes, which always held a sort of watery gleam to them that easily roused another's protective instincts. My mind drifted to years ago, when she first came to the university. As someone from a small town, she was timid and shy, so I had immediately taken pity on her. At the time, I had just sworn independence from my family, and my financial situation was rather dire. It was Candace who had always shared her breakfast with me, claiming that she couldn't finish it. Later on, she used the money that she had saved up to buy me a new phone on my birthday. I had been more than happy to return the favor, to repay her for all that she had done for me. Since she wasn't used to the cuisine here, I had decided that I would cook for her every day. After 2 entire semesters of this, Nathan finally couldn't stand it anymore. Are you her housekeeper? I had replied, I'm not just her housekeeper, but also her bodyguard. Once, while we were out together, we encountered some thugs. Candace told me to run first while she covered my escape. In the end, she suffered a terrible beating that left her with broken bones for 3 months. I had thought myself incredibly lucky to have met Nathan and Candace in this life, who knew that things would come back to bite me, and in the format of buy one, get one free, too. Whatever. With that chilly response, I snatched my phone up and left the room. Behind me, I heard Nathan and Candace start playing their game. Nate, you've brought your girlfriend along to climb the ranks again, huh? The jeering of Nathan's group of friends came through his laptop speakers. Hot damn. Isn't that the couple skin that's on promotion? Nate, stop flaunting your relationship in our faces. I walked away as the faint sound of Nathan's pleased laughter rang out in the room behind me. It would seem that they felt even more at ease when I wasn't around. I loitered around outside for hours and didn't return till it was already midnight. As I neared our room, I heard Candace on the phone. Nate already told me that he has a high chance of getting into the R&D division at Japerton, and if he's able to bring one person along, he'll definitely put my name in. I'm different from Liana. She's so capable and strong, while I have nothing. I abruptly threw the door open and entered. Candace clamped a hand over her phone as she stared at me in shock. Lily, where did you go? Nate and I were looking everywhere for you. When I brushed past her, I spotted the messaging app open on her screen. There was a little number at Nathan's photo showing that she had 20 unread messages. In stark contrast, I had absolutely 0 messages from him. Unpinning her and Nathan from the top of my messaging app contact list, I took a shower before climbing into bed, not once saying a word to her. The next morning, I woke up bright and early, only to discover that Candace was already gone. I headed out to meet with my dad, who had come to the city on business, and insisted on looking around my university. On the way there, I called Nathan. Nathan, my dad and stepmother are going to be here soon. Where are you? My stepmother was a snob and elitist who often mocked me for playing out of my league. She thought that Nathan was too good for me. Half a year ago, Nathan happened to overhear her sarcastic comments and vowed over the phone that he would marry me immediately after we graduated. Back in the present, there was a moment of silence on the other end of the call. Maybe you should go back and spend time with Lily. I can handle this myself, came Candace's voice, sounding thick and nasally. Nathan told me in a tight voice, Liana, Candace sprained her ankle, so I'm going to keep her company for now while she sees the doctor. Try to delay things a little, okay? At that moment, the nurse called Candace's number, and he swiftly hung up. I checked Candace's Instagram account and saw that her newest post was a photo taken of a puddle that reflected 2 figures, standing shoulder to shoulder on a hiking trail. The caption read, "A certain someone keeps teasing me, calling me a little girl, so I'm going to prove to him today that I'm a big girl and untouchable." Humph. He had the free time to hike a mountain with Candace, yet he couldn't even spare a glance at the restaurant address I had sent him last night. At the restaurant, my stepmother kept sniping at me, either mocking me for being so useless that I couldn't even keep hold of Nathan, or saying how I definitely wouldn't be able to find a man with my horrible temper. I slammed my glass of water down with a loud thunk, got up, and turned to leave. Her cold laughter reached my ears before she insulted me loudly. Weren't you the one bragging about how capable you were? About how you could survive on your own, and that you had found a rich boyfriend? Well, you're just like your deadbeat mother, no talent, but always pretending otherwise. Spinning on my heel, I dumped the pitcher of water over her head, which netted me a harsh slap from my father and a declaration that I was no longer his daughter. I only allowed myself to burst into tears once I had left the restaurant. The last person I wanted to look down on me was the stepmother who had stolen my father from me. Nathan had said he would be my support, that he would help me show them that I could thrive in life. Yet, where had he been? Throughout the meal, I had sent him over 30 messages asking for help, yet every single time, he had simply told me to wait a little longer. I headed straight to Nathan's dorm to find him, but the sight that greeted me as I opened the door was of Candace's leg placed in his lap. Upon seeing me, she hurriedly pulled her leg back, though Nathan didn't set down the tube of ointment he was holding. "Why didn't you come for lunch?" I swept a gaze across the room, noting that the curtains were drawn tightly, even though it was the middle of the day. Candace scrambled to explain. "Lily, I left my insurance card back at school, so Nate had to make an extra trip, and that's why." "You shut up." I glared at her. That instantly made her eyes redden. Shoving Nathan aside, she limped out of the room at a fast pace. Nathan took 2 steps after her before turning back to wrap me in a hug. "Candace is your best friend. How could you be jealous of her? I just think of her as a younger sister. You know how much of a ditz she is. If I had left her alone at the hospital, she would have gotten herself lost. Anyway, you were rather harsh on her earlier, so you'd better apologize to her later when you return. As for your parents, I'll treat them to a meal tomorrow, okay?" Nearly every single sentence out of him bore mention of Candace. I pushed him away from me, briefly weighing the words I wanted to speak in my mind. At last, I couldn't hold them back any longer. "Nathan, I'll go with you to Elena's birthday party tomorrow," Nathan anxiously said, cutting me off. Then, he planted a kiss on the tip of my ear and hesitated briefly before grabbing Candace's bag and running after her. That night, I lay alone in bed, unable to sleep even when dawn crept over the horizon. Candace hadn't returned the entire night. I hailed a cab and headed to Elena's birthday party by myself. However, I had barely arrived when Nathan appeared, carefully supporting Candace. Elena quirked a brow as she accepted their gift. She then leaned over to ask me, "Your boyfriend and best friend chipped in to buy me a gift while you bought one yourself?" My lips twisted wryly, even as my silence spoke volumes. Candace revealed the bracelet on her wrist, which had a charm engraved with the words, "With love, always," on it. She mumbled there was a buy one get one free promotion, so it was incredibly worth it. That's why Nate also bought this bracelet. She made a huge show of moving to take off the bracelet. "No need for that. You can have it," I said impassively. Halfway through the party, Nathan was dragged off to participate in a game. Candace had been slowly sipping at a glass of wine when she suddenly leaned over to me and said tipsily, "Lily, if there ever comes a day when you don't want Nathan anymore, you have to tell me, okay?" My eyes snapped to her in a fierce stare, and under the lighting, her eyes gleamed with intense greed. I couldn't stop the laugh that bubbled out of me. "Candace Lane, you sure aren't picky, huh?" She cocked her head to the side, and her long lashes fluttered gently. "It's not that I'm not picky, but that I can see things way clearer than you. Lily, let me ask you something. If Nate and I are buy one, free one, then what are you?" "What?" I retorted darkly. Her lips split into a mocking smile. "Of course, that makes you the extra, the third party. You're knowingly being the other woman." The fury that I had been suppressing instantly surged forth, and all the grief I had been enduring the past few days finally overwhelmed my rational side. Snatching up the bucket of ice on the table, I tossed the contents in her face. "Candace Lane, since when did you become so shameless?" She let out a screech before bursting into loud tears, screaming, "Lily, Nate and I didn't overstep the boundaries." Nathan charged over to pull her into a hug. Having lost all control, he bellowed at me, "Liana Souther, are you done?" "No, I'm not done." I zeroed in on his hand, which was currently gently brushing the back of Candace's hand, and noticed the exact same bracelets on their wrists. The sight of that made my eyes sting. "Nathan Linden, do you dare swear that you two didn't overstep the boundaries? Then, where were you two last night?" Rage roiled in Nathan, but there was a slight hint of guilt in his eyes as he replied, "Yes, we booked a hotel room last night, but there were 2 beds, and we slept separately." She was scared, so I simply kept her company. We didn't do anything that was out of line. Lifting Candace into his arms, he added, Liana, stop this tantrum of yours. I already told you that I only think of Candace as a younger sister. With that, he strode off. Indignant fury coursed through me as I chased after him, reaching the door just as a pink sedan came to a stop in front of me. Candace, who was seated in the front passenger seat, rolled down the window and tucked away the taunting smile that had been on her face. Liana, would you believe me if I said the car dealership was having a buy one, free one promotion? I stared intently at Nathan and asked him where the car had come from. I bought it and put it under Candace's name. Her leg is injured, and you know how strict the company is with attendance. That's why I bought her this car, to make it more convenient for her to get to and from work. His reply was smooth and casual, yet he couldn't bring himself to look me in the eye. Something suddenly occurred to me, causing me to smack the car and demand, where did the money you used to buy this car come from? Did you take it from our joint account? Nathan Linden, answer me. However, the only response I got was the roar of the car engine as he slammed his foot down on the accelerator and sped out of there like he was fleeing. The abrupt departure threw me off balance, sending me crashing to the ground. Elena helped me up before letting out a horrified yell. Liana, your leg is bleeding. Nonetheless, I ignored the pain as I grabbed my phone and checked our bank account balance. The marriage fund Nathan and I had spent the past 4 years saving up for had been reduced to zero. How dare he touch this money? He clearly knew that I had had to work 2 jobs during the summer and winter holidays. Also, I could break free of my family. In fact, for the sake of lightening my load, he had also refused to return home and would also find a job. Our vow to get married after graduation hadn't been set on a whim. That confidence had come from the financial security we had built up over the years, bit by bit. Yet now, he had taken away everything I had, all for Candace. For an entire week, neither Candace nor Nathan came back to campus. It wasn't until the day of our graduation photo shoot that the two reappeared, though they were late. Nathan was cradling a bouquet of fresh flowers. His eyes searched the crowd before finally landing on me. Our classmates instantly started teasing me.
Wow.
Liana, I can't count the number of times I've had to cover my eyes over the past 4 years from you two flaunting your love. I still remember back when we were in our first year, during roll call, Nathan stood up and introduced himself by saying, Hello, everyone, I'm Nathan Linden, husband of Liana Souther. Everyone burst into cheerful laughter. Nathan greeted everyone calmly, but when I completely ignored him, he turned right around and shoved the bouquet into Candace's arms. Candace let out a cry of surprised delight. Thanks, Nate. Immediately, an awkward silence descended upon the scene. Nathan turned to me and pinned me in place with an intent look. I've applied for 2 positions at the headquarters through the company, the other of which I'm giving to Candace. You should continue working here in the meantime. Once I've settled down in Jayperton, I'll consider our marriage. Think of it as a test from me. If you pass, I'll marry you in Jayperton. I fell into a daze. What made him believe that I would wait for him? However, Candace clapped a hand over her mouth and widened her eyes in disbelief. Oh, Lily. So, you're actually upset about me getting to go to headquarters. If I had known it was you, I wouldn't have called the police. Alarm bells started ringing in my head. What do you mean you called the police? She took out her phone and showed everyone a video. In the video, her sedan had been scratched up badly with the word, bitch, carved in big bold letters. Following that, she swiped next to show a photo captured from surveillance footage. I was in the photo. When I was in a bad mood, I had a habit of strolling through the small forest behind the library. Hence, during the past few days when I couldn't find them, I had indeed been there. That isn't me. I had barely finished speaking when the sound of police sirens came close. Candace, you know very well that it wasn't me. I seized her wrist in a tight grip, anxiety and panic gnawing at me. Graduation was just around the corner, so I couldn't afford to get a criminal record at this time. Candace yelped in pain, which instantly had Nathan yanking me aside forcefully. The worry that had been in his eyes earlier was nowhere to be seen. Liana, do you hate Candace that much? When did you become so extreme? A police officer grabbed and restrained me by the shoulder. I opened my mouth, yet I couldn't find the words to clear my name. Even the professor who had always thought highly of me shook his head sadly. Liana, how could you have been so foolish? You could have graduated at the top of your class, but now, whether you'll even be able to graduate is unknown. Mocking laughter echoed around me, though there were some sighs of pity. My ears were ringing, while all colors seemed to fade from my world. The only thing that still stood out brightly was the disdainful sneer painting Candace's lips. I was brought to the police station so that they could get my statement. One officer bluntly said, Ms. Lane refuses to issue a letter of leniency, so it's highly likely that you'll be detained for 15 days and fined over $500. A bitter laugh ripped from my mouth. Nathan had used up all the money in our bank account, so forget about $500. I didn't even have 50. The next day, I stepped out of the detention center to Elena, who had come to pick me up. She glanced at the time and asked, "Are you sure you don't want to go say goodbye?" I shook my head. Just then, my phone chimed, informing me that I had messages from Nathan. "Liana, you really have gone too far this time. Because of her worry for you, Candace spent the whole night crying. This interview is incredibly important to Candace, so I'll only come pick you up after it's over. As for a job, you don't need to worry about that either. My dad knows the boss of a factory. It won't be easy for you to get in since you have a criminal record now, but as long as you're willing to apologize to Candace, I can write you a letter of recommendation." Apart from these messages, his last message to me was actually a month ago, which read, "Liana, once we get in the R&D division, let's go register our marriage." At the time, I had been filled with such hope and anticipation. Now, however, all I felt was nothing but disgust. Upon returning to my dorm, I quickly packed up everything, then stared at my phone screen for a good long while. At last, I sent him one short message. "Nathan, let's break up." In the next second, I blocked his number, along with every other way he could contact me. While accompanying Candace at the company's recruitment event, Nathan felt an inexplicable sense of unease well in him. A commotion was slowly breaking out across the venue as the applicants gradually received the admission list sent out by HR. Candace was smiling as she opened the document. However, when she caught sight of the name at the very top of the list, her expression twisted into one of panic, and she yelled hoarsely, "How is this possible?" Suddenly, a notification also popped up on Nathan's phone. He read through the contents carefully, and his eyes widened in shock. The recruitment hall of the Swift Group's regional headquarters was filled with the low hum of nervous chatter. Dozens of fresh graduates from the city's top universities sat in rows of polished chairs, clutching their portfolios and waiting for the final admission list to be projected onto the main screen. Among them, Nathan Linden sat with his shoulders squared, his posture radiating a quiet confidence. Next to him, Candace Lane leaned in close, her eyes sparkling as she looked at her phone screen. "Nate, I'm so nervous," Candace whispered, her voice trembling slightly as she adjusted the silk scarf around her neck, a scarf Nathan had bought her using the buy one get one free discount at a luxury boutique earlier that week. "What? If I didn't make the cut? If I can't go to Japron with you, I don't know what I'll do." Nathan patted her hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, Candace. My credentials are top tier, and the department had practically promised me a slot. Since I'm allowed to recommend one associate to accompany me to the Japron R&D headquarters, your spot is guaranteed." Liana might be capable, but she ruined her own prospects with that stunt she pulled. The company has a zero-tolerance policy for criminal records. A faint, smug smile played on Candace's lips. She looked down at her phone, waiting for the official email notification. Suddenly, a loud chime echoed through the hall as the projector screen flickered to life. The HR department had uploaded the final roster. Candace eagerly tapped on her inbox, opening the PDF attachment. Her eyes scanned the document, searching for Nathan's name and her own. But as her gaze landed on the very top of the list, her smile froze. The color drained from her face, leaving her deathly pale. How is this possible?" she shrieked, her voice cutting through the quiet hall. Several applicants turned to look at her in surprise. Nathan frowned, quickly opening his own email. "Candace, quiet down. What are you?" His voice died in his throat. At the very top of the admission list, under the bold header, Special Global Talent Acquisition and Lead R&D Strategy Coordinator, was a single name, Liana Souther. Directly beneath her name was a secondary section titled Standard Admission Slots, Japron Headquarters. The rows beneath it were completely blank, save for a single, stark red notice. Notice: candidates Nathan Linden and Candace Lane have been disqualified from the final round. Effective immediately, both individuals are permanently blacklisted from all employment, internship, and collaborative opportunities within the Swift Group and its global subsidiaries due to severe ethical violations, academic dishonesty, and fraudulent recommendations. Nathan's phone slipped from his hand, clattering onto the carpeted floor. He stared at the screen as if it were a bomb about to detonate. Disqualified? Blacklisted? Nathan muttered, his voice cracking. "This is a mistake. This has to be a system glitch." "Liana, is just an intern. How could she be the lead R&D strategy coordinator? Before Candace could answer, the double doors of the recruitment hall swung open. Two security guards in crisp black uniforms entered, followed by a woman in a tailored charcoal suit. It was Elena Swift. Her hair was pulled back into a sleek bun, and her expression was cold as ice. Beside Elena walked Liana. Liana was no longer wearing the oversized, worn-out hoodies she usually wore to work. She wore a sharp, custom-fitted cream blazer and trousers, her hair falling in soft, elegant waves over her shoulders. The dark circles under her eyes were gone, replaced by a calm, unwavering focus. The room fell into a dead silence. What is the meaning of this? Nathan demanded, pushing himself out of his chair and marching toward them. Elena, there's a mistake on the system list. My name is blacklisted, and Liana's name is listed as a coordinator. She's just a student. She doesn't even have her graduation certificate yet because of her police record. Elena stopped, looking at Nathan as if he were an annoying insect. There is no mistake, Mr. Linden, Elena said, her voice echoing clearly through the hall. Allow me to introduce you to the true structure of the Swift Group. My father is the chairman of the board. I have spent the last year working as a senior intern to personally scout talent for our new Jayburton R&D division. And the person who has been quietly guiding our core project designs, authoring the patents you tried to claim as your own, and acting as my chief technical advisor, is Liana Souther. Nathan froze, his breath catching in his throat. What? No. She's just. Liana was offered the director position 6 months ago, Elena continued, her tone dripping with disdain. The only reason she didn't accept it immediately was because she was foolish enough to negotiate for 2 additional slots. She wanted to give to her boyfriend and her best friend. She wanted to pull you both up with her. Elena took a step forward, her eyes narrowing. But since she withdrew her sponsorship, we did a thorough background check on both of you. And what we found was absolutely repulsive. Candace, who had crept up behind Nathan, began to tremble. Elena, please. Lily must have lied to you. She's vindictive because Nate and I are close. She framed us. Liana finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it carried a weight that made Candace flinch. I didn't have to frame you, Candace. You did all the work yourself. Liana stepped forward, pulling a sleek tablet from her leather portfolio. With a swift swipe of her finger, she cast the tablet's screen onto the large projector at the front of the hall, replacing the admission list with a video file. Let's talk about the police report you filed, Candace, Liana said calmly. On the screen, a high-definition video began to play. It wasn't the grainy, cropped surveillance footage Candace had shown the university administration. This was a clear, wide-angle shot from a dashcam of an expensive SUV parked directly across from Candace's pink sedan in the forest lot. In the video, the timestamp showed 11:30 p.m. A figure wearing a heavy hoodie and a cap walked up to the pink sedan. The figure took out a key and began to violently scratch the paint, carving the word bitch into the driver's side door. As everyone can see, Liana pointed to the screen. The person scratching the car is wearing my favorite oversized black hoodie. The police initially assumed it was me because of the clothes. Then, Liana tapped the screen, zooming in on the figure's face as they turned toward the camera. Under the bright moonlight, the hood slipped back slightly, revealing a pair of watery, wide eyes and a distinctive birthmark on the left side of the neck. It was Candace. The recruitment hall erupted into whispers. Oh my God, she keyed her own car? She framed her best friend? That's psycho behavior. Candace's face went from pale to a mottled, dusty red. She grabbed Nathan's sleeve, her voice rising in a desperate pitch. Nate, it's not what it looks like. This video is fake. Lily edited it. She's trying to ruin me. I don't have the skills to fake a police-grade forensic video, Candace, Liana said, her voice remaining steady. This footage was recovered by the Cybercrimes Division. Elena's family retains one of the best legal teams in the country. When they presented this unedited footage to the police department yesterday morning, the charges against me were dropped immediately. Liana turned her gaze to Nathan, whose face was a mask of horror and confusion. And that's not all, Liana continued. The police have officially opened a criminal case against Candace Lane for filing a false police report, public mischief, and insurance fraud, since she already filed a claim with her auto insurance company to pay for the damages she caused herself. Nate, Candace sobbed, dropping to her knees and clutching his hand.
I did
it for us. I knew Lily was going to try to break us up. I wanted to make sure. She couldn't ruin our future in Japerton. You believe me, right? Nathan looked down at Candace, but for the first time, his eyes didn't hold any of the protective warmth he usually reserved for her. He looked at her with a mixture of shock and disgust. You lied to me, Nathan whispered. You told me you saw her do it.
You swore to
me. But I'm not done yet, Liana interrupted, her voice cutting through Nathan's budding realization. Nathan, did you really think I wouldn't notice where the money for that pink sedan came from? Nathan stiffened, his body going entirely rigid. The joint account we shared was a high-yield savings account, Liana said, her eyes flashing with a cold, sharp light. To withdraw any amount over $5,000, the bank requires physical signatures from both account holders or a notarized power of attorney. Since I was at the internship company all week, how did you manage to withdraw the entire $80,000 to buy Candace that car? Nathan swallowed hard, his throat dry. Liana, listen to me. We were going to
get married anyway.
I borrowed it. I was going to pay it back once we got our signing bonuses from Japerton. You didn't borrow it, Nathan, Liana said, her tone flat. You forged my signature on the power of attorney document. I've already spoken with the bank manager, and we've reviewed the physical slip you submitted. The bank has officially flagged the transaction as fraudulent. My lawyer has filed a civil suit for the recovery of the funds, and the police are preparing to charge you with grand theft and forgery. A collective gasp echoed through the room. Nathan's legs felt like lead. He looked at Liana, then at Elena, and finally at the security guards who were now stepping forward, their hands resting on their utility belts. Liana, please, Nathan pleaded, taking a step toward her, his arrogant demeanor completely shattered. We've been together for 4 years. You know how hard I worked for us. I made a mistake. I was confused. Candace was always crying. She made me feel like I had to take care of her. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to hurt me? Liana let out a dry, humorless laugh. Nathan, you took the money I earned working 2 jobs in the freezing winter. You took the money I saved so I could escape my abusive family. You gave it to the woman who tried to put me in prison. And you did it all while telling me I was the one being unreasonable and ridiculous. She took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of relief wash over her as the last lingering chains of her love for him finally snapped. You two wanted a buy one, get one free deal so badly, Liana said, her eyes sweeping over both of them. Well, congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted. You ruin one, you get the other ruined for free. With a nod from Elena, the security guard stepped forward, grabbing Nathan and Candace by their arms. Mr. Linden, Ms. Lane, please come with us, the lead guard said firmly. The police are waiting downstairs. The news of the scandal spread through the university campus like wildfire. By that evening, the student forums were flooded with threads dissecting the drama. The video of Candace keying her own car was leaked online, along with the details of the fraud and forgery charges against Nathan. The classmates who had mockingly laughed at Liana during the graduation photo shoot were now silent, deleting their old posts and desperately trying to send her apologetic messages. Liana ignored them all. Instead, she sat in a quiet coffee shop near the campus, sipping a hot matcha latte. There were no promotions, no buy one, get one free signs. She paid full price for her own drink, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like an afterthought. Elena sat across from her, tapping away on her laptop. The university's disciplinary committee just released a statement, Elena said, turning her screen toward Liana. Candace Lane has been officially expelled. Her graduation certificate is revoked. Nathan Linden's graduation has been put on hold pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. Because the forgery charges involve a bank, the prosecution is pushing for a trial. Liana looked at the screen, her expression neutral. They brought this on themselves. They certainly did, Elena agreed, closing her laptop. Our legal team has already secured a freeze on the pink sedan. Since the car was bought with stolen funds, it will be auctioned off, and the proceeds will go directly back into your account. The bank has also agreed to settle the remaining balance to avoid a public lawsuit for their negligence in verifying the forged signature. Thank you, Elena, Liana said sincerely. I couldn't have done this without you. Don't thank me. You earned this. Your research on the new polymer battery Materials is the only reason our Japerton division secured its funding this quarter. Elena smiled. The board is thrilled to have you lead the team.
Our
Flight to Japan is in 3 days. Are you ready? Liana looked out the window, watching the falling leaves dance in the afternoon.
breeze.
I've never been more ready. As she stood up to leave, her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment before answering. Liana? Please don't hang up. Nathan's voice came through the receiver, sounding ragged and exhausted.
He
Sounded like he was crying. Liana, I'm at the police station. They let me out on bail, but my dad, found out. He beat me, Liana. He told me I'm dead to him. The university won't let me graduate, and every company I applied to has rescinded their offers.
I
Have nothing left. Liana kept her voice calm and even. You have Candace, Nathan. Isn't she the one you chose to protect?
no.
She's a monster. Nathan spat, his voice filled with venom. She's the one who suggested I use your ID to withdraw the money. She told me you wouldn't mind, because we were going to be a family anyway. She manipulated me, Lily. You have
To believe me.
If you drop the charges, I can still salvage my degree. We can start over. I'll do whatever you want. I'll cut Candace out of my life forever. Liana listened to him beg, feeling absolutely nothing. The man who had once been her anchor, the man who had promised to stand by her against her stepmother, had reduced himself to a pathetic, sniveling coward. Do you remember the movie ticket, Nathan? Liana asked softly. Nathan paused, confused.
What?
The ticket? You bought row 8, seats 6 and 7 for you and Candace. And you bought row 4, seat 5 for me, Liana said, her voice dropping to a whisper. You always thought I was the one who was too far away to matter. But the truth is, I was just ahead
Of you.
and now, you'll never catch up. Liana, please. She ended the call and permanently blocked the number. 2 days later, Liana returned to her dormitory to pack the last of her belongings. The room was silent and smelled faintly of dampness. Candace's desk, which had once been covered in expensive makeup and the pink butterfly keychain Nathan had stolen from Liana, was a chaotic mess. As Liana was taping up her final cardboard box, the door creaked open. Candace dragged herself into the room. She looked unrecognizable. The delicate, watery-eyed girl who always roused a man's protective instincts was gone. Her hair was greasy and matted, her face swollen from crying, and she was wearing a cheap, stained tracksuit. When she saw Liana, her eyes flared with a desperate, wild anger. Are you happy now? Candace hissed, slamming the door behind her. You ruined my life, Liana. I have a criminal record now. My parents back home are being harassed by debt collectors because the car insurance company is suing us for
Fraud.
I have no degree, no job, and no money. Liana didn't even stop packing. She carefully sealed the box with packing tape. You ruined your own life, Candace, Liana said without looking up. You spent for years pretending to be my friend while secretly coveting everything I had. My clothes, my boyfriend, my hard work. You wanted to be me so badly, but you forgot that you didn't have the brains or the character to back it up. I loved him, Candace screamed, tears streaming down her dirty face. Nathan loved me. He chose me over you. He didn't love you, Liana said, finally looking up, her gaze piercing through Candace's delusion. He loved the feeling of being a savior. He liked that you were weak and dependent on him because my independence made him feel insecure. He used you to feed his ego, and you used him to feed your greed. You two deserved each other. At that moment, the door was violently kicked open. Nathan stood in the doorway, his eyes bloodshot and his clothes rumpled.
He
Looked like he hadn't slept in days. He ignored Liana entirely, his gaze locking onto Candace. You bitch. Nathan roared, lunging into the room and grabbing Candace by her collar. You told the police that the forgery was my idea. You gave them the text messages. Candace shrieked, clawing at his hands. It was your idea. You wanted to buy me the car. You're the one who signed the papers. Why should I go to jail for your stupidity? I bought that car for you because you begged me. Nathan screamed, shaking her violently. I ruined my entire future for you. My family is broke, my dad is forcing me to work at his friend's chemical factory as a manual laborer to pay back the bank. And you betrayed me the second the police questioned you. Get off me. You're a loser, Nathan, Candace yelled, spitting in his face.
You
We're only worth something because of Liana. Without her, you're nothing.
You.
Couldn't even get into the R&D division on your own merits. You're just a pathetic fraud. Nathan's face contorted with rage, and he raised his hand, slapping Candace hard across the face. She fell to the floor, sobbing and cursing, grabbing a heavy ceramic mug from her desk and throwing it at him. The mug shattered against his shoulder, hot tea spilling over his shirt. The two of them began to physically tussle on the floor, screaming, scratching, and blaming each other for their mutual ruin. Liana watched them for a brief moment. The two people who had once made her feel so lonely, so small, and so discarded were now rolling on the dusty floor of a university dorm, tearing each other apart like feral dogs. She picked up her cardboard box, stepped over Nathan's flailing leg, and walked out of the room. She didn't look back. 3 days later, the morning sun broke through the clouds over the international airport. Liana stood near the boarding gate, holding a cup of freshly brewed black
Coffee.
The terminal was bustling with travelers, but she felt a profound sense of inner peace. Elena walked up beside her, holding 2 first-class boarding passes. Everything is set, Elena said, handing Liana her ticket. Our legal team confirmed this morning that Nathan has signed a plea deal.
He will be on
Probation for 3 years, ordered to pay full restitution to you, and his record will prevent him from ever working in the tech industry again. As for Candace, her trial for insurance fraud is set for next month.
Her family has had
to sell their home to cover her legal fees. Liana took the boarding pass, her fingers brushing over her name printed in bold letters. It's finally over, Liana murmured. No, Elena smiled, gesturing toward the giant window where a sleek Boeing 777 sat on the tarmac, ready to fly them across the ocean. It's just beginning. As the announcement for first-class boarding echoed through the speakers, Liana felt her phone vibrate in her pocket. She pulled it out, expecting another desperate message, but it was just a notification from her bank. The funds from the auction of the pink sedan and the bank settlement had been deposited into her account. The balance was now more than double what she and Nathan had saved over 4 years. She stared at the numbers for a moment, then took off her old phone case, the one that matched Nathan's, and tossed it into a nearby trash can. She slipped her phone into a new, sleek leather case she had bought for herself. Liana, let's go, Elena called out from the gate. Coming, Liana replied. She picked up her carry-on bag and walked down the boarding bridge. The air was crisp, the sky was wide, and for the first time in her life, she was flying toward a future that belonged entirely to her.